Hello everyone and welcome to Where is Xur, IGN's weekly show where we find Xur and we look at his inventory together. Today you can find Xur. He is in the tower, which is on Earth, and he's here hanging out in the hangar. So let's go and pay him a visit. Alright, once you land in the tower, go ahead and take a left immediately. You'll walk down a series of hallways, eventually reach the hangar where you'll hang a left, and you'll find Xur hanging out on a ledge as he is wont to do. And here is old Snakeface himself. If you're wondering why there's a crowd around him, it's because for the first time in a long time, I'm actually excited to talk to Xur. He's got some great stuff, so let's go through it. First, he's got Suros Regime. This is an okay auto rifle, has a really great history with Destiny, but I wouldn't call it a very important part of the meta right now. Still, if you don't have it, pick it up. He's got Orpheus Rig. This is a great exotic. However, it's got a pretty bad roll, so we're probably going to skip over that unless you really need it. ACD0 feedback fence. I personally like this exotic for Titans, but again, not a great roll. And finally, we've got Phoenix Protocol, which again is a great exotic, but not that great of a roll. Based on this, you might think that this week he's not got a lot that's very exciting. However, he's got quite a good few legendary weapons, which we'll go through, and the armor this week, which is frankly kind of insane. But first, I saw some comments last week. People were asking if I was going to go over the Hawkmoon and Dead Man's Tale rolls in the video as well as in the article. I've been doing this every week in the actual article itself, but if you're just watching the video on YouTube or something, I will be happy to talk about these this week, which is fine because this week he's actually got a pretty good roll for Hawkmoon. I like this roll a lot. First of all, opening shot, in my opinion, the most important roll on Hawkmoon. For those who don't know, Hawkmoon has one, bullet in the chamber that does a ridiculous amount of damage, and opening shot makes your first shot have improved accuracy and range. So I think this is just like the best perk you can get on Hawkmoon. It's got heavy grip, which admittedly it does decrease your handling speed, which is pretty important with a hand cannon. However, I don't think it's the worst grip in the world. Definitely can help. And then it's got alloy magazine, which gives you faster reloads when the magazine is empty. Because of the way this gun works, you're probably going to want to always empty its mag completely. Therefore, this is a pretty great perk. So that combined with opening shot, I really like the roll this week and would recommend it. Unfortunately, can't say the same about Dead Man's Tale. I really don't consider this weapon unless it's got Vorpal weapon because it's so good at what it does in PvP and also in raids if you're fighting a boss or something. So subsistence is pretty good. Hand laid stock, meh. Accurized rounds obviously are always good. But this roll it's just okay. It's not my favorite one. So yeah, definitely pick up Hawkmoon if you don't have a good roll for it yet. Other than that, though, I'd probably skip it. And then we've got some good legendary weapons here. Most of these are meh, to be honest, but there's a few that are worth looking at. Chrysoromello, unfortunately, is one of the meh ones. It's got Harmony. I actually like dynamic sway reduction on auto rifles, but Harmony is sort of just makes it an okay roll. Whispering Slab, this one might actually be one of my favorite rolls this week. Vorpal weapon, which I mentioned before, is quite good on bows, in my humble opinion, especially for PvP, which is the stuff I care about, frankly. And then it's also got rangefinder, which is always good on a bow. So yeah, I'd take that. And then also it's got an accuracy masterwork, not bad. So I quite like this one. Moving on, GN7 rifle. I usually am just a big fan of this weapon in general. Dragonfly is a great perk for it. However, it's got full auto trigger system, which I would argue is probably one of the most useless perks in the game right now, especially with some changes they're making to make it so you can basically make any weapon an auto rifle or an auto trigger system for free. So yeah, I wouldn't really recommend this one. Cartesian coordinate. This roll is not very good, frankly, unfortunately. And Ikelos SR V1.0.3 is a great weapon. However, again, I mean, perpetual motion. Can you get any less useful? This weapon gains bonus stability, handling, and reload speed while you're in motion. Well, it's a sniper rifle. So, I mean, unless you're MLG 360 no-scoping, I don't really see that being useful. So I kind of hate this roll. Moving on to Tarantula. Feeding Frenzy on linear fusion rifles, huge fan of that. If you don't know what Feeding Frenzy does, it gives you kills that increase your reload speed. So it's just good for running around and just popping things. Wellspring makes so that kills generate ability energy. These perks actually go together pretty well. The problem I have with it is you don't really use a linear fusion rifle to run around and kill random adds, like at least I tend to use my heavy ammo for bosses or big encounters, and so this seems like it would be a better set of perks on a primary weapon. So probably not super interested in that. Finally, the keening. This is my other pick this week. I really like this. I think a lot of the perks go together well. It's got Under Pressure, which gives you improved stability and accuracy as the magazine gets lower, right? So you're constantly shooting bullets and it's getting more accurate. And then as you do that, you have a faster aim down sights speed. And then this one, the Masterwork, gives it a reload speed. Increased reload speed. So what you're doing is basically just constantly shooting. You're getting as many bullets out as possible. Your gun's getting better as you get bullets out, and then you're able to reload quickly and then use snapshot sights to get back in the action. This is like a perfect role for, in my opinion, for a sidearm where the goal is to just get off as many rounds as possible, as quickly as possible, and as accurately as possible. And this does it quite well. Plus, I just like the keening as a weapon. So. This is definitely one I would recommend picking up if you don't have a reliable sidearm. And now we get to armor. So not all the armor is great this week, but the pieces that are good are really good, like frighteningly good. So we're going to talk about them. And I'm actually excited about what Xur's selling this week, which is a great change of pace if you've been watching the show for a few weeks now. So first up, he's got these gauntlets. They're not very good. They are notably spiky in resilience and have very low mobility, so that's actually great, but 60 overall stat points, hard to get excited. Chest piece is sort of the same boat. Low mobility, really, really high resilience. Like, I want to get excited about it, but it just doesn't have that great of an overall distribution. However, the helmet is another story entirely. It kind of has the opposite problem, where its overall stat is great. It's got 67 points, which is insane for a legendary. Unfortunately, it's got 16 of that in mobility, with 2 being the lowest mobility can go. That's 14 sort of wasted points. However, it's just so good overall that it's kind of hard to turn this thing down. You also might have a use case, especially with Arc 3.0, and who knows whatever else other sandbox changes they're going to be bringing out in Lightfall, where maybe mobility will start to matter on Warlocks and Titans. You never know. So I might pick this up just in case. I don't really have any good armor that gives any mobility to Titans, so just because I haven't cared about it ever, but I might. And so this roll is so good, I might just pick it up just in case. And then finally the boots, which kind of have the same problem as the chest piece and the gloves, which is they've got very low mobility, very high resilience, high strength, which is awesome. However, their overall stat range is only 60, which is really not good. I tend to like lopsided armor like this, but I feel like the total has to be large enough to justify it, and it just isn't in these cases. So yeah, the helmet is great. The other pieces of armor, the stat distribution's amazing, but the overall stat totals are not super exciting. And that is Titans, so we're going to be moving on to Warlocks. And here we are. Let's take a look at what Warlocks have to offer for their armor. So Warlocks this week, they have an absolutely insane roll, which is right here. These are the boots, and this is really, the main thing that you should consider this week. The crazy thing about it is it has 68 overall stats, which is, I've been racking my brain. I think this might be the highest I've ever seen for a legendary. Usually you see, up to 70 on exotics, but 68 on a legendary, that's sort of crazy. I guess the bad news is 16 of it is in mobility, which, I don't really have a use case for mobility on Warlocks most of the time. However, the meta's always changing, and just in general, 68 with 26 of that in strength and 12 in recovery, that's hard to turn down with a 68 overall. So this is just, god tier in terms of its total stat distribution, and I'm very interested in picking this up and just kind of seeing if I can make a build around it, because it's just so high stat. Some of the other stuff is interesting, like this hood. I just find it kind of amazing that it's so well rounded. It has almost the same score, like right across the board, which is cool. but with 61 overall, not super exciting. Chest piece is a little better, 64, which I actually would consider this for a build. 16 of that is in mobility, which again, I don't really have a great use case for mobility on Warlocks, but just in general, 16 discipline, 13 intellect, 10 resilience. These are pretty good distributions all around, and so it ends up being kind of a well-rounded piece of armor that maybe you should think about. 64 is not bad. And then finally the gloves, which are low, but they're sort of like the Titan armor this week, where they've got low mobility, high resilience, and it's kind of like, that's almost worth it just because the distribution is so right, depending on your build. So, the highlight is obviously the boots. I mean, this is just unheard of, especially from Xur. He doesn't really sell armor like this, so I'm just really impressed this week overall. And you should grab these boots just in case you have a use case for them. And if you have like a reason to have mobility on any of your hunter characters out there, definitely grab this. Like, this is just crazy. So very excited about this one. And with that, we will move on to hunters. All right, let's take a look at the last of Xur's armor. Also some impressive rolls for hunters, which is just kind of amazing that Xur decided to delight us this week. First up are these grasps, which have 28 mobility. Hunters are really the only class that you for sure want to think about mobility on, and 28 is great. Unfortunately, the rest of the roll is meh. It's not very exciting, so 62 overall points is, probably passable. But hey, if you need a spiky roll on this slot, especially in the mobility category, you'd be hard-pressed to do better than that. So take a look at this one if you need that. This vest is much more well-rounded, which is awesome. It's still got 12 mobility, so it's got something for those mobility hunters. However, it's also got recovery, discipline, and 64 overall points, which is great. So I would definitely consider this. And then finally, the star of the show this week is the mask, the helmet for the hunter. This is a great roll. It's got 66 overall, which is very high. 17 of that is mobility. It's got a good amount of resilience, and then it's also got a really spiky strength roll, which is great if you're an invisibility hunter. So I'm very excited for this one. I'm actually going to buy this right now. There you go. Just did it live because I really like that roll. I think it's going to go well with my Void Hunter. So I'm very excited about this one. And then the boots are not exciting because they got 58 overall, but they do have a spiky intellect stat. So it's been great this week because at least every class has one thing that is like, all right, this is like a high roll and I want to take it out or take a look at it and consider it. And so this is very cool. Thank you, Xur. And that's it, guys. Hopefully this video was useful to some of you. We will be back next week to talk about Xur further. And for everything else related to Destiny, stick with IGN.